I'm Roanna Ruiz in Manila for Kuzu News and Commentary. Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard's Labour government claims Australians will not feel the recently introduced carbon tax. However, it's dawning on many that the newly introduced carbon tax is going to cost far more than what was bargained for. Indeed, it will cost in unintended ways they couldn't have imagined. Gillard may have in fact ignited a rural property boom. Imagine making a $6.5 million property investment which returns $20.5 million in 1 year or less. Today, we do the numbers and show you how it's done. Australian air carrier Qantas has entered into an agreement to buy more than 1 million tons of carbon credits from Henbury Station in Central Australia. R.M. Williams Agricultural Holdings bought the 527,000-hectare station for $13 million in 2011. The Australian federal government has contributed $9 million to the Conservation Zone project, which will see the Northern Territory station destocked and restored to a natural landscape. Qantas Environment Issues head John Valastro says it's the first time the airline has sourced carbon credits in Australia. He says the agreement will go a long way in fulfilling the airline's liabilities under Australia's carbon pricing scheme, which is newspeak for the carbon tax. Remember, if you can't elect to pay the carbon price, shop for it or use an alternative. Then it's a mandated tax no matter what governments call it. Again, paraphrasing Valastro, he went on to say, what makes this one quite unique is the size and the scale of what they are doing in terms of the methodology they're using to actually generate the credits. He also said it's about revegetating and repurposing the land. We see that as a powerful use of the sourcing of carbon credits. Tell that to Australians shopping for food in the supermarkets and who are already struggling with higher than ever electricity prices. Food comes from rural Australia's productivity, not supermarkets. So what's happening in Australia? Does this mean Julia Gillard imposed a tax on Australia that will progressively see productive agricultural land, which feeds the nation, taken out of food production service? What does this mean for the nation being able to independently feed itself, let alone the cost of food, as land comes out of production because it's more profitable to repurpose the land? Does this mean that anyone can buy agricultural land for, say, $6.5 million, repurpose it for a carbon scheme of, say, 500,000 tons of carbon, and use Gillard's $23 per ton starting price to value the land at $18 million? That's nearly 3 times the purchase price. Add to this massive profit a further $4.5 million government conservation zone grant, and now you have $20.5 million from a $6.5 million investment. As a bonus, you might get to profit from some taxpayer-funded ecotourism venture on previously productive agricultural land. Alternatively, these once productive lands might be abandoned by developers where they take the money and run, locking once agriculturally productive land with carbon chains. One property developer had this to say about carbonizing land. He said, "Wait until the white shoe property boys hear about this latest little earner. They'll be all over it." Someone has to pay for the so-called earner. Eventually, Australians will be left to import food and pay spiraling energy prices, whilst global bankers and speculators have the carbon emissions trading scheme they've always dreamt about. A scheme of taxing citizens without them knowing it. A privatized taxation system under the guise of free market forces as taxes passed on to the price of goods and services.
Some of the cost, paid by big polluters, will be passed through to the prices of the goods you buy.
Julia Gillard is absolutely right. Of course Australians won't see or feel the carbon tax. After all, wasn't that the whole idea? They weren't meant to see it or feel it until long after she has left office. As of the CPI indexing of Gillard's so-called carbon tax compensation, which is used as the basis of the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission being used as an attack dog against anyone who criticizes the tax, well, the bad news is the tax won't be indexed. Compensation for the low-income earners will melt away in time, and as the carbon prices trades over the $23 per ton starting price, the open market global emissions trading scheme crushing household budgets. Gillard's 2012 compensation will become a distant memory as families struggle to feed themselves, whilst feeding the bankers who have their market-driven tax on the cost of living in an already unaffordable Australia. If you're shocked, angry, or have just woken up as to what's been done to you, ensure your friends, family, and colleagues get it too. Email this commentary, post it to Facebook, or tweet it. Carbon taxes are more than just taxes. As you've seen, it's money out of thin air for the beneficiaries, and it seems you're the one who is paying for the air. I'm Rowena Ruiz in Manila for Kuzu News and Commentary.